Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be upcycling this metal bowl that I thrifted from Goodwill. When I saw it, I just fell in love with it. It reminds me kind of like a Frankenstein bowl because you can actually see that it's welded together in pieces. The bowl of the tray looks like it's been welded on. It's just a really neat piece that I've never seen anything like it before, so I decided I'd get it and make something with it. So I'm going to decoupage the bottom and then paint around the image to hopefully make it a seamless picture there. And what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to figure out where I want it inside the bowl. I'm always scared to death I'm not going to get it centered, so I take a lot of time here. And I'm taking my finger and I'm rubbing it along the edge of that weld there at the bottom of the bowl. And I'm just kind of marking the paper where I'm going to be taking that off so that it lines up better with the actual bowl. And here you see me do this 100 times, or maybe not 100 times. But you just wet the edges where you want to rip off the paper. And so I've got that outline and I'm just wetting that edge there that I've creased. And then wherever there's a straight edge on the paper, I'd like to take that and make it uneven. It blends better into the paint when I go to paint it. And it just looks, to me it looks better. It doesn't look like it's just a finished cut off edge. It's just kind of softer, is what I'm trying to say. So I'm just going to go around there and take off those edges so that it fits the bottom of my bowl. Just stick it in there and make sure it fits where you want. Like I said, I'm always scared to death I'm going to put it in there crooked, so I take a little extra time on making sure it's centered. And I can see it comes up a little above where I want it to, so I'm just going to take off a little bit more of that edge there so that it fits the way I want it. I don't want it to come up over that weld mark. I want it to sit right inside it, right beneath that line. I just love old country churches. I don't know, this one may not have been used for years, but it's still sitting there proud and beautiful. And I think all the stories it could tell if it could talk. Just take your time on this part and make sure it's exactly where you want it, because once it's glued down and dried, it's there forever, unless you want to paint over it. So once you have it where you want it, then you're going to decoupage it to the bowl. Basically means you're going to glue it down. And I use Pentart decoupage glue and varnish. You could use Mod Podge and it would work fine. If you're going to spend the money on the rice paper, and it's not that expensive, but it is more than a napkin, use a good product to put it down. If you don't have the Pentart, you can use the Mod Podge, but I just like the way Pentart products go on. Your projects are really smooth, your paper's really smooth with very few wrinkles, if any at all. It's just a really good product and I highly recommend it. And know my voice sounds a little crackly today because I'm allergic to earth right now. I have been for several months. I'm getting pretty tired of it, but it is what it is. Just make sure that you've got that pushed down, and you want to rub out any wrinkles if you see them. If you like wrinkles, you can leave it in. It does give it an aged look, but I like my paper flat, and then I like to add the age with my fine line crackle. Now once you've got that glued down, you're going to dry it up a little bit. Now normally on my decoupage projects, I do paint the surface white or a cream color. I wanted to keep this really old, and I didn't want it to pop. It might not have made a big difference because I'm going to put an antiquing gel over it, but I wanted to see how it worked, and I like the way it came out. The metal surface is not that dark, so. Here I'm just putting another coat of the decoupage glue and varnish down over the top. It will seal everything down really nice. Make sure you've got it over those rough edges. It'll also put a little coat of varnish over the top. If you wanted to stop right there, you could, because it is somewhat sealed. But I'm going to paint around that picture so that it blends into the bowl. We'll dry it up with my, you can let it dry if you want to, let it dry overnight. I was in a hurry, wanted to get it done, so I used my heat gun. You can also use a hair dryer, but you can just let it sit until it dries, either way. And right now I'm picking out the paint colors that I'm going to try to use to match up the colors of the artwork there. If I had to do it again, I like to pick my colors before I have the image laid down in or on the surface. It's just easier to move your paper around to try to match your colors, but either way works. If I did it again though, I would pick these colors out before I actually glued it down to the surface. Now I don't have every color I'm going to need to paint that, so I'm going to have to do a lot of mixing. That road there has a lot of this peachy looking color in it, so I'm starting out with something it's called Dawn. I think it's a Waverly chalk paint called Dawn, and it's kind of a pinkish color, but there's really more of a peach color there, so I had to go mix some red, orange, and yellow, I believe, to make it more peachy. But you just have to play with your colors. Play with them on a paper plate like I have there, or if you've put down a color and you don't like it, cover it up with the right color. You just have to play with your paints to see if you can come up with the right colors, because if you try to buy every color there is out there, you wouldn't have enough room in your house to do that, first off. Secondly, you can get close to the colors you need, and sometimes you'll see me do this here. I'll paint onto the rice paper itself if I need to make those colors blend better. And I've noticed that, gosh, these rice papers, well, a lot of them have a lot of greens and blues and peaches in there, more than you think. So I'm gonna have to try to find, and there's a lot, you can't see it from here, but there's a lot of green right there in the middle of that road where it looks like the grass is kind of grown up into the road there. And so it took me a while to find the greens that I wanted, and I had to mix it with a little brown to make it look like there was dirt and grass there, but Again, just play with your colors until you get it the way you want it. I'm gonna stop talking now and just let you watch me paint for a little while. Don't be afraid to paint on your rice paper. Sometimes when I cannot get the color the way I want it. I mean, it'll be close, but I'm just not happy with it. Sometimes I'll bring some of that color up onto the rice paper so that it will blend together easier. And I put color on top of color, like you see me putting the green there, and then I'll put some brown on top of it. Especially with that grassy road, it looks like there's dirt and grass. You know how the grass is not all grown in. And that peach color that's on that road, it's not pink, it's not white, it's a peachy color. So I had to mix some colors up to make the peach color. And you can see I'm having trouble with that green there. It's just not what I want, but I'll fix it to what I can live with eventually. I'll put green and brown and different greens and browns until I get what I want. Use your fingers, blend your colors with your fingers, use a sponge, use a brush. Just play with it. Like I've said before, the worst thing that could happen is you have to paint over it and start over. But you can do that. You may not want to. I've never had to. I've just kept playing with things until I get it the way I want it. But if you had to, you could totally paint over that picture and start completely over. And only you would know. The hardest part is putting that first blob of paint on there because it's a little scary when you have a rice paper that you really like and you don't want to mess it up, but go for it. You'll be surprised what you can do. And pray. Pray a lot. You see how I started there with that light brown color as a base? I'm going to go back over it with like a raw umber or even black. I use so many colors I can't remember exactly what I used there, but I think it was raw umber and black and mixed it with the brown. If you look really close at your rice paper, you look close at the image and the way they've painted it or created it, it's not all one color. It's not like all brown or it's not all black. It's got a lot of different colors mixed together, working together to create a picture. If it was all one color, it would look flat and lifeless. Remember, your color's going to look a little different once it's dry. Sometimes I'll let things dry, or I'll take my heat gun and I'll dry it off to see what the color looks like when it's dry, and then I'll decide if I need to make any changes. Also, don't be afraid to try painting on different surfaces. There's so many things you can paint on. Metal trays, mirrors, wood, ceramic pottery, planters, rolling pins. If there's a space somewhere empty, you can paint something on it somehow, some way. Getting really close to finishing the painting part of the process. I always find it so peaceful. It calms me to create something, to sit in my craft room and just work on something. You don't think about anything else but what you're working on, so it's a nice little escape. Sometimes too, when you add a little paint to your rice paper, it gives it dimension, so it's fun to do that as well. Also, pick up your piece and move it around and look at it in different light. Sunlight as opposed to artificial light. You'd be surprised what you can see when you move it around and look at it. And there you go, that's the painting part. I'm going to dry it really good before I move on to the fine line crackle part of the project. Like I said, I'm going to make this look old, so that's what we're going to do. And once you've got your piece really dry, make sure it's really dry. You can, if you've got the time, just let it sit there and dry naturally, because if you let it sit there for 24 hours, you know it's dry. But if not, use your hair dryer or your heat gun. And this is Pentart's Fine Line Crackle. It comes in two parts. Part one is what you add first, and it basically goes on white, dries clear. It actually looks like Elmer's glue. It's not Elmer's glue, but it looks like that. So it'll go on like with this thick white opaque look, and then it dries clear. And you want to make sure that that is really dry before you go on to the next step. And I have to tell you, once you start this step, don't use anything water-based. The varnish that you put on at the end will need to be solvent-based. If you put any type of water-based product on it, it will turn cloudy, and then you will have to paint over it because you can't fix it once it's got that water in there. When that mix, it doesn't like it. So from here on out, you put your water far away from you. Don't accidentally stick your paintbrush in it. Now again, I dried this with my heat gun, but you can let it sit overnight. Second part is actually part two. Has a 2 on there. For people like me who get mixed up and confused. But you're going to put a layer of that on. And you know, you hear different stories. Some people like to put it on thin, some people like to put it on thick. I like to put it on there somewhere in between. You're going to completely cover your work with that part 2, and it goes on clear. You want to make sure you've got enough product going down that your brush is not sticking as you're moving it across the board. You don't want it stopping. If you are your brush is sticking as you're putting it down, you're taking product off and not putting it on. So just make sure you have enough on your brush or on your piece that you're moving it around nicely and smoothly. You don't want it catching anywhere. Now, I will tell you this, the longer this part dries, the more fine line cracks you'll get. I think I let mine sit a few hours and I came back. No, I let this one sit overnight. I did. I let this one sit overnight. And it wasn't quite 24 hours later. And it was pretty, but I wanted some more crackle to it, so I took my heat gun at it and made sure it was really, really dry, and it did add some more fine lines to the piece. And that's it. That's dried. You should be able to see all your beautiful little cracks. You see, I did take my heat gun and dried it a little bit more because it didn't sit for 24 hours. It sat overnight, but it did add more crackle. So the drier it is, the more fine lines you will get. And again, no water-based product from here on out. You don't put anything, no water-based varnishes or anything like that. Make sure it's solvent-based. So what we're going to do now, and you can do a number of things here. You can use an antiquing gel, patina, an antique wax. I've used mica powders before if I wanted it to have like a gold crack or a bronze looking crack. It just depends on what you're doing. I'm going to be using Pentart's antiquing wax in umber. It comes out really vintage looking, so that's what we're going to do. Now you're going to want to wear gloves and use a soft rag to wipe it down, but I just use my finger to put it on. Some people use a paintbrush. and really get it down into those cracks. I just use my finger and I just keep rubbing it down into those cracks until I get it the way I want it. And it's a simple process. You're just going to rub it on. It'll look like it's really dark all over your picture. I guess I really want you to know what I'm using here. That's Pentart Antique Wax. I'm a technically challenged person, guys, and so I probably wanted to make sure you could see it in the camera because I don't know what I'm doing when I'm recording. But what I'm doing is I'm rubbing that in. You see how dark it is? It's kind of a yellowish brown color. You're going to rub it in and then take it off. And it should leave the stain in the crack and take a lot of it off your actual picture. You can see where it's in the crack there. And I want a little bit more, so I go back over certain spots. I guess some cracks are deeper than others, so some take it better. Some take the stain better, but if you keep working it in there, it'll eventually get down to where you like it. I could have used like a bronze mica powder. That would have been pretty too. But I just really like this antique wax look. It took me a long time to use it. I was afraid of it. But once I started using it, I really liked it. Comes out there really pretty. I love that. I love the fine line crackle. To me, it looks like porcelain. And there's the finished product. It's already, you didn't see me, but I did put a solid-based varnish from Pentart, and I used the matte instead of the really shiny one. And I liked it. But that is the Pentart solvent-based varnish. And that's it, guys. Go try it.